Okay. Well, hello everybody. Today we are going to be learning about career readiness for your mentee. So we will just go ahead and get started by sharing your name and then sharing a mentoring experience that you have. So I'll go ahead and I'll just model it. So my name is Anna Flores. I am the Training and Match Support Specialist out of the Teammates Central Office in La Vista. And for me, my mentoring experience, I've had a lot of them, but my formal one through Teammates was with my mentor, Becky. And Becky and I were matched in high school, and then she actually continued on with me into the Teammates Plus program. So I was very lucky to be able to have my mentor in college because a lot of things are changing in college, and it's really good just to have that person that's been that constant for you continue on with you as well. My most impactful things that Becky and I would do together was really just walk around the track and talk. And it was often these times where I was talking to her that I was sharing about my career goals and about career readiness and about my passion for that and about what I really wanted to do when I grew up, right? And so that would probably be one of my most impactful mentoring experiences. Does anybody else have one that they would like to share today?
I'll share. My name is Tricia Faust. I'm the teammates co-coordinator here in Columbus. And my first teammate graduated this May from Midland, so I'm very excited.
Yay.
She's a nurse in Omaha now. And our experience, I have to say, I got as much out of it because she was a junior at the school. My daughter, who was a sixth grader at the time, was about to attend next year. So she she helped me out a lot as a mom, knowing the ins and outs of the school and, the do's and the don'ts and all that good stuff. So it was definitely a two-way.
That is very awesome. Thank you, Tricia, for sharing. Allison, would you like to share?
I'm glad to. I'm Allison, and I would say one of my favorite mentoring experiences was being matched with my mentee Beverly, who moved and then moved back to where I was. And so we were matched for 2 years, and then our match ended for 2 years, and we were able to be matched for another year before she moved again. But Beverly taught me how to throw the football better than when I started. I'm still not good at it yet, but she was very patient with me, and I loved how I could learn so much from my mentee.
Very cool, very cool. The only mentee in the room, would you like to share about your mentoring experience?
Probably my best experience is, he's helped me out so much, learning that a job is important and just getting grades and working hard is the best thing you can do for yourself because it helps you a lot of work.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And for all of you that are viewing through the live stream, just think about that, think about your mentoring experience, and maybe share with an elbow buddy or someone like that and just talk about that or just reflect on it yourself. So we are going to go and dive into what is career readiness. So this is what career readiness is defined as in Nebraska. They actually have standards about this. And for me, career readiness really came to the forefront of my mind at a very young age. So I had a substitute teacher who said to the entire class, and wasn't even singling me out necessarily, but it really stuck with me. He said, "Education is the way out of poverty." And I wasn't necessarily impoverished growing up, but I always knew I wanted more for myself. I wanted to be able to have that career and for everyone to say, "Oh, Anna does this," and be proud of that. I wanted to give those lines to my mom and to my grandma and that sort of thing. So that's really where career readiness got embedded into me. And these are the Nebraska standards specifically about what they say a high school student should have when they graduate from high school. So these are the things that are supposed to be, presented to them and worked on from elementary school, middle school, and high school, and hopefully they graduate with this. Well, I'm sure like many of those high schoolers and many of our mentees, they may not even know about these standards, right? So they may not even know if they have all of those things. But whether they have them or whether they don't, I didn't really know if I had them either. And what I used was the career development model. So the career development model is an awesome way for you to get your mentee or student really career and college ready, which also means just being ready for life too, right? So there are 4 steps to the career development model. The first one, learn about yourself. So that's really getting to know you and maybe what types of jobs would you like. And then explore majors and careers. That's the second step. So after you really know about yourself, let's look at those majors, careers that would fit with you, and then gaining relevant experience in those fields. And then finally implementing your plan. And throughout all that, you'll be reflecting and continuing to be involved, and then updating your resume if you do decide that you want to join the workforce right after high school, or then in college, how this would look, you would be updating your resume continually. So we're gonna dive into the career development model and explore what each different step looks like for our different mentees and what that full potential looks like, because every full potential for each of our mentees looks different, right? So learning about yourself. So if you sat in on Allison's presentation, we learned a lot about strengths, right? And so Columbus is a strengths-based chapter, which is exciting because that means that our mentees really know those strengths and they can target those to be successful as well. And even if you're not a strengths-based chapter, for those of you who are watching, you still know what your mentees' strengths are. You can point out, oh wow, you're so good at this, that sort of thing. And those things can really be used to learn about yourself. The other thing that you could do to really get that conversation going is to think about the 3 whats. So what are you good at? What pays well? And what do you enjoy doing? And I learned about those 3 whats when I was a career peer mentor at Doane University. And I oftentimes talked about this with college age students. You know, what are you good at? What do you like? What is going to pay you well so that you can enjoy your job but still have an income from that, right? And the other thing you could do too, we have an awesome resource on the Mentor Resource Library. A lot of things that I'm going to be talking about today are on the Mentor Resource Library. The packets that I handed out to everyone, every single one of those documents is also on there for those of you watching live. But a couple of the questions that I really loved from the Get the Conversation Going handout is, if you could be an expert on any one subject, what would it be? And I think that really shows you, you know, what is something that you really love to learn about, and then major in that, right? Or would you rather do something you hate and make $100,000, or do something you love and make $20,000 a year? So that's something that I really thought about often when I was in college. In middle school, everyone always said, well, Anna, you know, you should be a plastic surgeon for the family, right? Like they wanted a plastic surgeon in the family. And I was like, I'm not really into science or anything like that. But you would have been making, you know, more money. You would have been making closer or above $100,000 a year. But instead, I really loved journalism and media. So that was something that I knew I wanted to be an expert on. That was something that I was working on my entire life. And you don't necessarily make $100,000 a year in that unless you become like Barbara Walters. But it's a good starting point. So that's what I also considered. And also talking about what are your mentees, or what are the students' values? What really matters to them? Does it matter to them that when they wake up in the morning they say, oh, I can't wait to go to work? Or it doesn't even feel like work? Does it matter that they're at home at night to tuck their kids into bed or to make dinner? Those sorts of values and things that really make us ourselves are also things that we need to consider when we're thinking about what do we want to do, not for the rest of your life, but what's that starting point look like? So these are my strengths, my Gallup strengths. And I use Maximizer and Achiever quite often in my role at Teammates, because I'm always talking about how can we really provide that gold standard training that starts with the mentor. Because for me, my mentor was a gold standard mentor, and I just want to ensure that I am getting those mentors off on the right foot so that they can be that for another child like Anna as well, and the Achiever as well. So if you want to turn to your table partners and maybe share about how do you use your strengths in your jobs. And since we have a group of 3, maybe a couple up. We will bring it back now, and I hope that you all watching also had a moment to talk about that too. Does anyone want to share about how they use their strengths in their workplace? And it doesn't even necessarily have to be in your workplace or just really in your life, but focusing on that would be awesome. Sarah?
Oh, I didn't mean
Eye contact. I feel like the teacher.
I think the obvious one that gets pointed out a lot for me is strategic thinking. I use that strength a lot to try to figure out like where do we need to go, what is our next thing we need to focus on as teammates to help the organization grow and support our chapters and programs the best way possible.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Even though you do. Anyone else? Trisha?
I always share that I probably use my developer and my empathy probably, or my
Harmony?
yeah, my harmony and my empathy probably the most with working with the students and the mentors and in the team competition.
Oh, definitely. Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing. So now we are going to go into the next step, the second step, which is exploring majors and careers. So how many of you, when you were in high school, did you know really what you wanted to do after high school? Did you have kind of that post-secondary plan in your mind? Did you think about, I'm going to go to a vocational school, or I'm going to go to college, or I'm going to go into a trade, or I just want to join the workforce and kind of figure things out? Did any of you have an idea of that? And is that what you followed? Did you follow that path that you thought? Anyone? Jen?
So I always knew that I wanted to go to college. I think I was, Allie talked earlier about fourth graders, and I remember being in fourth grade saying I'm going to go to college someday. So when I graduated from high school, I had a plan to go to UNO, and I did that. I spent 5 years there, but I graduated and did an internship in nonprofit management and got my first job before I graduated from college in nonprofit management.
That is awesome. Wonderful. So you knew what you wanted to do, you aimed it, and you achieved. That's
Yes.
great. Very awesome. Anyone else? Well, for me, I actually, when I was 5 years old, I used to interview my family members in the morning with my hairbrush. So how oftentimes kids sing with it, I was saying, and what are you looking forward to most about today? And then when they would get home, and what did you do today? So I was always thinking about, I really want to do journalism and media, and I'm going to be a broadcast journalist, and I am going to be the next Barbara Walters. So that was my goal from when I was 5 years old. And then middle school, I really worked on everything journalism. So I was part of the morning show, and then in high school I was part of the yearbook and every single journalism club. I went to college and I was still like, I'm going to be a journalist still. So I don't have to go through my entire resume with you guys, but I really went through it, right? So then when I had my first internship at a nonprofit, I was using all of those skills, my videography skills, my photography, my writing, my interviewing, and I was really using them to change people's lives. And I was feeling good about it, and it was different than reporting on what was happening. It was really making an impact. And that's when I said, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I also I watched a TED Talk once, and they said, find a job that is who you are. Everyone always says, follow your passion, but really find something that you are. And I am a born advocate, so my little sister's special. I've always been an advocate, and so to be an advocate for mentees and mentors, that's really what is my purpose, and that's why I love that. But not everyone's like Jen and I. 20 to 50% of freshmen don't have a major declared, so they are undecided. And then when they even decide their major, over 75% of students have changed their majors at least once before graduation. And so that really shows that it's okay not to know what you want to do after. It's okay not to know if you want to go to college even, because there's always wiggle room and, there's always room to grow. So that's what's exciting about that. So if you don't know and you want to kind of get a better idea, I actually learned about these awesome resources from the Columbus, Nebraska Department of Labor when I visited them. And I'm going to show you one of my favorites, maybe, if I can. Okay. So this is called My Next Move. And what I really love about this is that it works for people who don't really know what they want to major in, or even if they want to go to college, but it also works for those who know, oh, I want to be a broadcast journalist, right? So we can type in over here. So this I'm not really sure section, you can start a whole assessment and talk about, what are your values, what are your interests, that sort of thing. And then it will generate different jobs for you and say, maybe this is something that you would want to look into further. But say that you know what you want to do, and say maybe you want to be a nurse, right? So you can just type in nurse there and search it. And then registered nurses is number 2, but also maybe they put up different ideas of here are some other jobs that kind of fall in line with nurse, but things that you could also explore further. And when you click on that, it tells you exactly what type of knowledge base do you need to have for this, what types of skills, what abilities do you need, what should your personality be like, although that one is very, it varies, every different person's a nurse, and then technology, and then the education. So what type of education do you need to attain in order to get this career? And that's what I really love about it. That, and I love the job outlook too. Because if you know, okay, this is going to be an in-demand job in the next 10 years or so, that's usually a really good job to go into. Does anyone have any questions about this, that website? There are other ones, AnyWorks, that's from the Nebraska Department of Labor, ONET Online, a lot of people use that as well, and they're all very similar to one another, but why I love them, My Next Move, is just because it really shows and paints a big, big picture. And then the other people that you can consult to talk about those majors and careers are your high school counselors, and then once you get to college, the Academic Success Center or the College to Career Center can be very, very vital in exploring those things. Okay, and then the other type of approach that you could take is the brain-based approach. So this isn't necessarily black or white, right? But I am right-brained, and so it is very much that I lead with creativity and emotions, my motivations, and so I was a journalism and media major, which makes sense. Graphic designer, counselor, manager, that sort of thing. And then the left brain is more of that logic, reasoning, language, so that would gear more towards that scientist or lawyer, accountant, those numbers, because of that logic and reasoning. Soft skills. Every single person has soft skills, just like every single person has strengths. And soft skills are really those skills that are transferable into any career path. So start tracking those now so that you can really put those on your resume and maybe get into those clubs that align with your soft skills that you have. So those leadership things, maybe you're going to be a National Honor Society because of your GPA and that sort of thing. Okay, and like I said, I did go to the Nebraska Department of Labor in Columbus, and that's where I really learned about this thing called H3 jobs. So the Nebraska Department of Labor says that H3 jobs are today's in-demand jobs. So these are almost guaranteeing that you are going to have a career if you go into this. So they are high wage, high skill, and high demand. You can read that yourself, but essentially, it has to be all three of those things in order to qualify as an H3 job. And one of your handouts that I gave you is the outlook about that job, and then the salary and the hourly wage as well. So you can look at that, and also what type of education you have to have for it. Not all H3 jobs require you to have a post-secondary education. Some of it is, apprenticeships or on-the-job training, that sort of thing. So you can look at that. The number one, heavy and tractor trailer truck drivers in Nebraska, that is our number one H3 job. Registered nurses, and it just goes down. Number 7 is elementary school teachers. I really love that one, and I just love all of them. So you can look at those further. They are just right here on the Nebraska Department of Labor websites. And it also gives a description of what are H3 jobs, and then it will even give you a report about what does that look like in Nebraska or what other area you are in. Does anyone want me to click on one specifically to learn more about it? You good? Okay.
This is a great tool.
Yes, I love this tool. It's awesome.
If you look at the first one, the heavy
Yeah.
tractor trailer truck drivers.
Definitely. So this shows over the next 10 years what the change is going to be. So how many people are projected to be employed in the next 10 years, and then how many were in 2016. And they're actually coming out with their new H3 job list in 2020. So that's something to look forward to as well. So the last report was in 2016. That's the percentage change, the annual openings, and then the hourly wage and the salary that you may obtain with that.
Interesting how maybe some of these have shifted.
Yeah,
in
definitely.
Not that long of time frame.
Yeah. And that's why it's so exciting about the 2020 when they release the new ones, just to see which ones will stay on there, which ones will move up, down, that sort of thing, and really look at those projections. But I think it's really useful, especially for students or mentees that maybe don't really know what they want to do. If they don't want to go to college, that's not the end all be all, right? So you could go into being a heavy and tractor trailer truck driver, and you know that that's going to be a good job in the next 10 years. So that's really exciting. Okay, and then if you don't go into H3 job, or maybe you don't want to go to a 4-year school, you could go into a vocational career. So vocational careers require 2 years or less of training. These are the top 5 according to tradeschools.net. So they list the highest pay, the medium pay, that sort of thing. And so those are just other options for our mentees and students. There are various post-secondary paths. So there's 2-year colleges, 4-year colleges, community college, like we're here at Central Community College, and they have an awesome academic success center that I already went by and talked to. And so whoever goes to school here, you should definitely utilize that. But just like here, all universities and colleges usually have a college to career center, and so also utilize them. You could go into an apprenticeship, vocational training, the military, join the workforce, or if you have awesome ideas, maybe ideation is one of your top 5 strengths, then maybe you will want to go into entrepreneurship, which can be very, very awesome. And then volunteering is also a wonderful path to take, just so that you can really learn what different things do you like. So it's not committing you to a specific job, but you can go ahead and volunteer there. And it's also important to remember that you should always reassure your student or mentee that even though they have picked a major or they know what college they're going to go to and they've declared all those things, that's not the end all be all again, right? So just because I went into journalism and media, I'm not doing that, right? I'm not becoming the next Barbara Walters. So there's always leeway in that. So always keep that in mind. If you are going to college, here are the 2019 top majors. And what I really think speaks to this is that business was a 38% in 2019, and that's because business is such a versatile major, right? So just like I said, you're not going to get locked in. Business is one of those that you could do a lot of different jobs with that, and that My Next Move can really help you see all the different types of jobs too that you could do with the business major. And also at your college to career center, those people, those counselors are going to tell you, okay, yeah, these jobs might have a good outlook in the future, maybe go into this type of major. And I think that that also speaks to what majors were the top ones in 2019.
It's interesting to look at this, Anna, and compare it to the H3 jobs.
Yeah.
So with number 7 and number 10 of the H3 jobs being in education and 7% in
Right.
the major.
Yeah, so that means that those people are actually going to have it better, right? Because there are going to be more jobs available to them and there's less people majoring in it. So that's what's really, really exciting about that for those people who did major in education. Definitely. So the third step of the career development model is to gain relevant experience. So as I already shared, I took all the electives that were journalism or creative writing based because that's what I knew I wanted to go into. But if you don't know what you want to go into, just like volunteering, taking different electives that fit into your class schedule can be very helpful for you to find out, I really like this, I don't really like this. If you're like, I don't like this, then don't take the next level of it. But if you really enjoy it, then maybe take the next one of that. And then job shadowing can also be very helpful in gaining relevant experience. So shadowing means that you're really observing someone doing their job. I job shadowed at the Crete News with Jen, and she was very awesome. And she really showed me, what does this look like day to day? What does my job look like? And that can give you a better picture of, is this something that aligns with my values? Is this something that I would like to do? They also vary from about 1 hour to week-long sessions. It just depends on the employer. And then apprenticeships, those are programs that train workers to become skilled in that trade. And then there are also online simulations. So if you aren't sure or you think, oh, I want to do this, you can go ahead and go to Claim Your Future. And Claim Your Future is just one of the many online simulations offered. And it can help you experience that without actually getting into that job, right? So you just click play the game and then you can pick it, or they'll generate different ones for you and you can just explore those. So say we're in 11th grade and we are not, so we go straight to the game. And so you can choose your career, so if you really know what you want to do, or you can just go with your career is a writer, and you can explore that further. They also provide you with a budget, so they'll say, okay, well, this is the income that you would live off of, and these are the certain things that people usually spend their money on, and so that can give you a good idea as well. Oops. I have to pull back up my PowerPoints. Okay. So another way to gain relevant experience is to participate in a mock interview. So you can do a mock interview in your career classes in high school, but you could also do it with your college career center, or you could even just ask a family member to do a mock interview with you. Tips for interviewing. So when you do fill out your resumes and everything and you're ready and you're going to go to an interview, what you need to do ahead of time is really research that company. So get to know, what are their strengths, what is their purpose, what do their goals look like, and do my values and does my purpose align with that? So that when they're asking you questions, or if they say, do you have any questions? Hopefully you have a question about the company, right? Because you've researched it. Then know yourself. So know, what do I bring to this career? That's why when they ask you, why are you the best candidate for the job? You don't want to say, well, because I just am the best candidate, right? You want to have concrete material to provide with them and say, this is why I'm going to do this job better than anyone else that you're interviewing. So make sure that you know yourself, and then practice with someone. Participate in a mock interview, and then plan ahead. So what are you going to wear that interview day? You don't want to be late because you've tried on 50 different outfits and you don't think that you look good enough, right? And then the location. So for me, when I went to go interview at the Teammates, for my job now, there was no sign yet that said Teammates. So they had like the Culligan sign, but that was it. There wasn't that big thing that stands up now or the Teammates sign. And so thankfully, Des Moines Adam, shout out to Des Moines, he had given me his phone number so that I could call him and say, where is this Teammates place? Because you don't want to be late. So if that were to happen to you as well, hopefully you can just get in contact with that person. But also maybe do a dry run, going to the location and seeing, okay, this is where I'm going to be interviewing, and always show up about 15 minutes prior just to show that you are efficient and that you can be on time. And then during your interview, don't be phony. We say this in new mentor training, right? So we don't want you to be phony with your mentee, as in we don't want you to be on your phone during the time that you're meeting, but it also applies to you during your interview. So put your phone on silent or leave it in the car. Just don't have it out and about because you really don't need to be. If it is an emergency, then just tell that employer and reschedule. And then taking your time is really important as well. I think that oftentimes even I thought, okay, well, I need to have an answer to every question. I practiced, right? So I need to know this. But taking your time to answer the questions can oftentimes be better than if you're just spitting out words, right? So maybe have them restate the question, or maybe, oh, see, don't be phony, and here he is, being phony. No, that's okay. But taking your time, so make sure that you're thinking about that question and then answering it so that it can really reflect you and what you're trying to get across. And always ask questions. So when the employer asks, do you have any questions for me? Don't say, no, I don't have any questions. Maybe say, well, can you walk me through a typical day of someone in this role? Something that I always love to ask my people who are interviewing me, could I come and job shadow for a day and just see what this looks like before I commit to the company and before you actually bring me on, because I don't want to waste your time and I don't want you to waste mine either. And then use the STAR strategy anytime that you're asked a question. I also learned this as a career peer mentor at Doan. So what is the situation? So when they ask you something, you can give them, this is exactly what that situation was. What types of challenges were presented to you? So what task was at hand? What actions did you take to accomplish it? And then what resulted in that situation and how you handled it? Oftentimes it's really awesome to add numbers to quantify those results, just because it really shows that you were thorough and that you thought about your answer. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay. The next thing in Gain Relevant Experience is really to network. So begin networking now at your school, at your high school, at your middle school, and talk to those people, in the who are the counselors, who are the secretaries, who are your teachers, and really just build that network. Every person you meet has the potential to become a part of your network, and so it's really important to always put your best foot forward and to just get to know people and build that relationship, because the stronger the network you have, the better chance you have in your career. And if anybody ever, joins your network or writes you a letter of recommendation, always send appreciation so that they know, that they are making a difference. Okay, so this is the fourth step in the career development model. Implement your plan. And this is going to look different depending on if you, went to college, or if you joined the workforce, if you were an entrepreneur, that sort of things, if you decide to go into the military. So each one's going to look different, and that's why we have a few slides about this. So implementing your plan if you decide to go to college. Always apply for scholarships. And shout out to Des Moines again and to Jackie McKeever, because this scholarship checklist packet is amazing. Okay, I can't open it, but you guys can go there. It's on the Mentor Resource Library under Mentee Resources, and then Scholarships, and then the scholarship checklist packet. Scholarships. So there are different types. So there's academic, so you had a really high GPA and they want to give you money to award you for that, because it shows that you'll probably do well in college. Need-based, so that's like finances. So maybe your parents don't have a lot of money, but there's scholarships to provide you so that you can go to college. Student-specific, so I'm a military baby, so there are some military-specific for those children and military veterans. Career-specific, so journalism and media-specific ones, and then college-specific, so that would be like Doan-specific scholarships. And then our teammate scholarships. So we have over 100 different scholarship opportunities, and we awarded over $3 million last year, which is really, really exciting. I'm going to go ahead and show you this. The application actually opened up on October 1st, and the deadline is January 15th. So if you haven't even looked at these scholarships yet, I strongly encourage you to look at them. I would not have been able to go to college without scholarships, and I actually received 2 teammate scholarships. So it is worth filling it out. So here is the long list of all of the teammate scholarships. So if you are a mentee, make sure that you apply for this. And if you're a mentor of a senior mentee, maybe show them this, right? And do it together. And then if you are not a mentee, that does not mean that there are no scholarships for you. There are, so you can go to Scholarship Quest. There's also different websites. This is just the one that I chose. It's a free database, and it actually contains over 2,000 Nebraska scholarships that you may apply for that may pertain to you. And then if you are awarded a scholarship, so I was awarded over $100,000 in scholarships, so that's how I was able to fund my college. Always thank that scholarship foundation or the person. Make sure that you thank them too, not just when you get that scholarship the first time, but thank them the next year and the next year and the next year if it's a reoccurring scholarship, and let them know, hey, this is what I'm doing right now. This is how it's going. So common scholarship requirements. So there's oftentimes a personal essay or a statement. When you write this personal essay or statement, you can reuse it on every single different scholarship, right? So it's not like you have to write 50 personal essays. You can just have that one and then tailor it more to that scholarship. So the introduction, you want to talk about who you are, what's your background, and what are your interests and what career path are you looking to go into. And then family background is like your second paragraph. So what are your life experiences? What is your involvement? And then examples of hard work and perseverance is really important in this one too, just to show them, you know, that you can go to college and that you've overcome these things. And it's that section that really pulls out the heartstrings. So make sure that your second section's that. And then your third one, why you? Why should they pick you for the scholarship? And the importance of receiving that scholarship for you, right? And then also that third one, the plan to stay committed in college. It's a really awesome time for you to talk about how you are going to stay committed, because I just told you I was career ready, and since I had that sub tell me that. So I was like, I want to have a great career and all this sort of thing. I got over $100,000 in scholarships. When I got to college, they always say, oh, you're gonna find your friend group and you're gonna love your major and everything's gonna be great, right? Well, for me in college, things weren't really that great. So in the beginning, I thought, this just isn't for me. I just shouldn't do this, right? And I think also it was that I didn't have the mentor that I was seeing every single week too. And that kind of got hard, but then, you know, we saw each other monthly. So at our first meeting, I told her, I said, Becky, I am done. I am not going to college anymore. I am just gonna be done with college. And she really focused on my strengths, and she said, how can we get you to where you wanna be? And think about your 8th grade self and all the things that you told me that you wanna do. So that plan to stay committed can hold you accountable, but it can also really help guide that conversation maybe with your mentor, mentee, that sort of thing. And then letters of recommendation. Always thank them as well. You're going to be writing a lot of thank you cards. So when you graduate high school, you'll say thank you for all the gifts. When you get to college, you'll say thank you so much for the scholarships, and you will thank your letters of recommendation. It's important to ask for a positive letter of recommendation and don't just say, may I have a letter of recommendation, because oftentimes those people who are writing those things are going to be very honest. And so you really want to build that connection and talk to those people in your network that have, you know, that positive frame around you, and ask them for it, and always ask them about 1 to 2 months prior to that deadline. Because if you tell them, oh, I need it in 2 weeks, probably not going to be as good of a letter of recommendation as you would want it to be. And also provide information for that reference. So talk about your strengths and your talents. What did you do in high school? How were you involved? What's your motivation, career aspirations, so that they can include that and really tailor that recommendation to you specifically. Okay. And then after you apply for your scholarships, or you can really do it during, there's no really steps in this part, but apply for the FAFSA. So the FAFSA is really awesome because it determines 3 very important things for you if you want to go to college. So this is the FAFSA guide, and it kind of helps you learn, okay, this is how I fill it out, especially if maybe you're a first-generation student, just so that you can kind of see, okay, this is how I do it, because maybe your parents haven't done it yet. So that's a great guide. And then the FAFSA determines the Pell Grant allotment. So Pell Grants are what you do not have to repay, just like scholarships. So those are very awesome. And then the financial aid work study programs. So that's when you have a job at college, and they can either put all of that money that you're earning throughout that job to your program, or you can say, okay, I want 15% of it, and then maybe put the rest towards my tuition, that sort of thing. and they also determine financial aid, so for your federal student loans. There are 2 different types of loans, and I didn't know this as a freshman, and I wish I had. I didn't have to take out many loans, but unsubsidized loans are not based on financial need, so the interest accrues immediately. So when you take out that loan as a freshman, interest is going to start building up on that immediately. Subsidized loans, those are based on financial need, so the interest does not accrue until after college. So make sure that if you have the option to take both an unsubsidized and a subsidized, that you're taking that subsidized first and probably more money out of that one, because then you won't have to pay back more in the long run. I wish I would have known that because it's very important. And then studies show that over 70% of college students take out student loans. And so we really don't want you to have to be a part of that 70%. So really apply for those scholarships and get those Pell Grants. And also that work-study program, those are very beneficial as well. Then you will have to take your ACT or your SAT, depending on where you want to go to college. You could take both if you want to. They're standardized tests, and essentially what they do is just show colleges that you are college ready, right? So the average score is a 21, and the average score for an ACT is a 1060. Those are actually equivalent to one another, so 21 and 1060 are the same. And then you will have to fill out your college, university, or vocational school applications. So those, usually how it goes is that you will log on to the school that you want to apply to, and you will fill out all of the demographic information, and then you will upload probably your personal essay, and there's usually a fee that you have to pay so that your application can be submitted, and those are not refundable. So think about the colleges that you want to apply to before you do that. Any questions at this point? Okay. Then if you decide that you want to go into the military instead of going to college or joining the workforce, that sort of thing, you will need to take the ASVAB. So the ASVAB tests knowledge and experience in 10 different areas, and it really just helps the military assess what jobs are going to be best for you, right? So it's kind of like the My Next Move, but for the military. And so they'll say, okay, these are the jobs I think you would do a good job at, and then you could pick that. And they are completed in about 3 hours or less. If you decide that you want to go into the military as well, you should be in contact with a military recruiter. And I know that a lot of high schools have these military recruiters coming into the schools and talking to the students. But if not, that link right there that we can send out to any of you who are interested, that is the one that you would click on to contact a military recruiter. Okay. And then implementing your plan. So when it comes to maybe just going into a job, right after high school, you'll need to create a resume. Resumes look different in high school and in college. So in high school, it's okay to note these were all the clubs that I was in high school, these were the sporting events, and then this was the job that I had in high school. In college, it looks different. You don't want to put anything that you had on your high school resume on your college resume. So employers don't really care that much about what clubs you were in high school, right? That's the whole point. So we want to talk about that. And every single resume needs to be a maximum of 1 page. And this is because employers, on average, only spend about 6 seconds looking at your resume. I asked Allison this when I got hired. I said, did you only look at my resume for 6 seconds? And she said, no. I looked at it often and a lot. So it kind of varies on the employer, but 6 seconds is about the average. And so you want to put things that are really going to stand out, that really reflect the job description, and it shows that you align with those things. Never, ever use a template. That is another thing that I can't stress enough, because you are going to want to edit your resume, especially, as you go on in your career. And if you use a template, oftentimes you have to pay for it, to download it, and things like that, and it just kind of gets messy. You can make the exact same resume as I gave out to all of you, and it's on our Mentor Resource Library, just using Word or Google Docs. That's what I used. Always write strong bullet points. It's okay to have a bullet point that is longer versus just little bullet points. So you want to kind of talk about just like the STAR strategy, right? What did you do? How did you do it? Why did you do it, or why is it important? And then always try and add quantifying numbers or results, just to show that it really made a difference. Acquire references, just like I talked about earlier, just with the same ones usually as the ones that you would use for your scholarship applications. So your teachers, different paras that you made good connections with, a former employer, and your mentor, of course. And then always apply for about 3 to 5 positions and send a thank you card or email after an interview. So it's important that you will just have to kind of designate which one you will have to do. So if you have one interview, send a card, right? If you're going to have 2 interviews, so if you have a second interview, send an email saying thank you, and then send a card after the second interview. So you'll just kind of have to see that depending on what job you apply for. Okay, and then this is me the day that I graduated from college. I put this up here just because no matter what path you are thinking about going down, things are going to come up and maybe you're going to face obstacles, or maybe you're already having doubts about it. Can I even do it? Well, I just want you to know that you can do it and that it's going to be awesome, and always rely on that great network around you. Rely on your mentor like I did, my family, my friends, and then really rely on that academic success center as well, because they can be awesome tools for you and they really helped me a lot. So now we'll go ahead and talk about a takeaway, or if anyone has any more questions.
For me, one takeaway is, putting this in the context of relationships and relationship building. When you think about your resume, an interview, a scholarship application, all of that is trying to share and really make a connection with that other person, whether it's somebody who's reviewing a scholarship application or it's an employer who's looking to potentially hire you. It is really about relationship building, about being able to help them see you, what's unique about you, what's valuable about you, and what you can bring to that role, to that university, whatever it is. So much of this is, I think, related to what Teammates teaches and what our mentees and mentors experience of building relationships and being able to more clearly define who I am and what makes me special and unique. So I just see a lot of connections with this and what Teammates teaches to all of our mentors and mentees.
Definitely. Thank you, Sarah. Any other takeaways?
I love that all of these things are available on the Mentor Resource Library. So if I'm mentoring a 4th grader, I might not be needing this yet.
Yes.
But with my sophomore, junior in high school student, great resources. Haley and I practiced doing a mock interview, but she interviewed me.
Oh, reverse.
I didn't get the job. Yes. So she had me practice what it would be like to be interviewed. And I think that's a fun thing that a mentor-mentee can do, is do a mock interview together.
Yeah.
But flipping the script so that the student gets to feel like they get to ask the questions is a really good practice.
Definitely.
For both people involved.
I love that. I love that idea. That's wonderful.
I laughed too much. That's why she told me.
So you didn't get the job.
And I also thought of the great ideas you gave and the pointers that you gave about going to an interview.
Yes.
I mean, some of the things that I would think through, but not necessarily think through, like going to the location.
Yeah.
Prior to.
I should have done that. Thank goodness I wasn't late. But yes, it's very important to do that, run through. Definitely. And here are the other resources. So this is the Teammates Plus mentoring link, and then just different online resources. Our Mentor Resource Library has all of these things for all of you, and you can just download those. And if you have any questions, always contact me or Jackie McKeever or Des Moines Adams. And please complete our survey. Allison said it before, but please make sure you do, just so that we know how we did and so that we can do better next time. Awesome. Well, thank you.